Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Joseph Miranda, broker owner, Miranda Executive Realty, here for our latest installment of our Ask the Broker Elite Training. This is our bi-weekly meeting where we deep dive into topics. We deep dive into subjects that hopefully help you take your business to the next level. This week's training is going to be win the listing, crafting presentations that close. So real quick, just a couple of disclaimers before we get started here. Well, let's start with the shameless plug. If you're not an agent with MX Realty, you're watching this recording somewhere later, or you're on here now, you can scan the QR code, learn more about Miranda Executive and how we can take your business to the next level. Quick disclaimer, I am a broker, owner of Miranda Executive Realty, but I'm not an attorney, I'm not an accountant, not a doctor. So none of this is legal, financial or medical advice. So, these are all just my opinions. These are some of the best practices that I've used in the past, when I was actively selling real estate. So, use what you like and leave the rest behind. But, again, these are really just opinions. So jumping into it, let's go ahead and get started here. Win the listing, crafting presentations that closed. Myself, I've been in real estate. I've been a licensed agent since 2007. Between myself and my team, we've had over 600 transactions. I was the listing agent for pretty much all of those transactions that have been done. And I do advocate for listings, right? I think listings are the product that we sell as real estate agents. My opinion, and this is my opinion only. But, if you're going to sell something, or if you're going to be in an industry, you want to control the product. And our product is the house, right? It's the home, it's the condo, it's, whatever it is, but that's our product. And I want to control that. And by controlling the product, we can control the market just a little bit. So as you know, for the agents that are in the office or people that have heard my trainings in the past, we really kind of break everything down to the least common denominator. We break everything down to, what are the steps of a sale? And, these are broad brush, broad strokes here when we're talking about, these concepts. But, your sales process is going to flow in a certain order. Lead generation, lead follow-up, going on appointments, writing contracts, and closing the sales. Lead generation, lead follow-up, what's your lead generation strategy? It can be calling, door knocking, geo farming, it could be networking, whatever it is, you need a strategy. Most lead generation is not going to close on the first contact. Sometimes it will, right? But if it doesn't, then you don't just forget about the lead and leave that lead behind. You have to have a process, you have to have a system for following up, right? So when you're following up, right? That's where, that's where the cliche saying comes in, the fortune is in the follow-up, right? You have to follow up. One call, if you're, whether it's an online lead, whether it's a lead from a referral, wherever that lead came from, you have to have a system to follow up. If you don't get the appointment on that first phone call, you have to follow up and keep trying until you get that appointment, right? Once you become effective, right? Once, or maybe just luck decides to shine on you, you're doing your lead generating, you're doing your lead follow-up, and then what's the next step? You're going to go on the appointment, right? And each of these, they're going to require certain skills. There's going to be certain tools that are going to help you to be more effective at that. But that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about going on the listing appointment. If you've, been with us for any amount of time and you've been on these trainings, we've done plenty of training on lead generation. I think the last one that we did was on how to get free leads, right? Like real free leads. Hopefully that was helpful. We talk a lot about lead follow-up because the fortune absolutely is in the follow-up. But when you're lead generating and you're lead following up, you have one goal in mind. Everything that you do should be centered around that one goal, and that is getting the appointment. If you're not going to ask for the appointment, if you're not going to close for the appointment, then you're just wasting your time on the phone. Every single phone call that you make, you should close at least once for the appointment. If you close, they say no, and you're on the phone with them for a little bit more time, right? Then you can try to do a double closing. right? These are the things that, that we talk about when, when we're going through. So, all right, so before the appointment, what are you doing? Elementary. So there's a certain set of documents that you need to bring to the appointment. Make sure your documents are prepared. Never, ever, ever go on an appointment without the proper documents. Now, not everybody carries around paper documents with them. Not everybody even uses paper documents anymore. If you have an iPad and you can use an iPad for these documents, to me, it's even better. There's enough technology out there that really an entire presentation can now be done on an iPad. If you're old school, you like pen and paper, that's fine too. Just print these out. I know I started before a lot of this technology was around, and it was a lot of paper getting printed all the time. It's going to be much better for the environment if you can figure out how to do this digitally. But if you can't, look, pen and paper's fine. This is just a suggested list of what you would bring. Comparables. All of your contracts, comparables, really important. If you're not going to have an iPad or you're not going to have a way to do a virtual digital presentation, then you need to have those comparables printed out, right? Because you need to be able to show them in person what you are actually using to determine the value of that property, right? Another one, we have what we call the seller's checklist. This is all of the information on the property. What questions when you list a property, when you have a property that's on the MLS and another agent calls you or a seller finds your property online, what questions are they asking you? This checklist should cover that. How old is the AC? How old is the roof? How much is the association? Right? All of these questions should be answered. The other thing that I put on here is I put the key features and details of the property. I'll always ask the owner, because the owners lived there, or they probably have, or at least they've owned it. They know more about the property by far than I do. I'll ask them their favorite features of this home, right? What are the things, since you've lived here for the last, 15 years, what are some of your favorite, what are some of the favorite things that you've enjoyed while living in this home? And they'll tell you, right? They'll tell you, because you can almost assume if one person enjoys it, then there's probably somebody else out there that's going to enjoy the same thing. And some of them could be intangibles. They could be things that we didn't even think about. Oh, well, I like that, it's walking distance to, my favorite shopping plaza. Or, my kids grew up here and it's a great school district, right? These are things that maybe we'll figure it out as we go, but it's better just to get that information up front, right? So make sure you have all of your documentation. Make sure everything is ready so that when you get there, when you finally do get to the signing, you have everything. And try to have everything filled out, as best you can. Next thing is, to me, probably one of the most important things. I think it is, in my opinion, the most important part of your presentation, and that's your CMA. Right? Because and we're gonna get to some of these other things later, a little bit down the road. But in my opinion, there's three things that a home seller cares about, and the number one thing is, how much can you sell my house for? Right? They don't care necessarily about who you are. They don't care necessarily about what your marketing strategy is going to be if you can't sell their house for top dollar. Right? Now, make sure you heard that correct. Right? Don't hear what I didn't say. They do care who you are, and they do care about your reputation. But the number one thing that people care about on an appointment is the value of their home. And they need to trust that you are going to be the person that's going to get them top dollar for their home. Right? So I don't call it a CMA. I call it a price value analysis. Right? Because I believe that's really what it is. Right? Comparable market analysis or comparative market analysis or whatever the hell that stands for. To me, that doesn't really tell what we're looking for. We're looking for two things in the CMA, the price value analysis. We're looking for, and it's backwards, but the first thing that I look at is the value of the property. I want to know what's the value of this property, or better yet, what is the value range of this property? So to find value, we need to know, number one, what's the difference between value and price? Value is what somebody has paid for a property, right? This house is valued at because somebody has closed on it and they paid that price for it, right? So the first thing we need to do is get our range in value and say, okay, based on recent sales in this neighborhood, homes that are, right, there's your word, comparable to your home, have sold from, between $250 and $275 per square foot, right? Your house, is, I don't know, 1,000 square feet, right? So your house, the value of your home is likely going to be between, 250 to $275,000. That's your value range, right? This is the science part of the analysis, because valuing a property is both science and art. And we did do a training on doing a CMA. So if you want to go back and you want to learn more about this, you can find the training there. I believe, there's, price, value is science, and then pricing is art. So now that we have our range of $250,000 to $275,000, now what we're going to do is we're going to look at the market and try to determine the price. Price is different. Price is what you're asking for the thing that you're selling. So the price is whatever you end up landing, whatever you land on for the listing price, right? So we know the value is $250,000 to $275,000, but what do you do if there's nothing in that neighborhood of comparable homes listed for less than $300,000, right? This is where the art comes in. This is where you really got to figure out, okay, are we going to price it on the low end? Are we going to price it on the high end? Or are we going to price it just right? A lot of strategies here, and I don't believe, in my opinion, that there's any one right answer, right? In my opinion, I believe that there's times when you can totally justify pricing a property at the high end. We just listed one, went under contract in 6 days, and we listed it $10,000 over what we believed the value to be, because all of the everything else in the neighborhood was way overpriced compared to what those sold properties were selling at. Everything else was $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 overpriced. We put $10,000 over what we saw the value as, and it sold within 6 days. It sold very, very fast. We were getting two or three showings pretty much every single day, and we got it under contract, right? So, in that case, even in a market like this, where as of the date of this recording, there's still an abundance of condo listings out there for sale. But because we saw when we did the price value analysis that the price of this property can be justified higher than than what we believe the value to be, we listed it high and we still sold it in record time because we were competing against the neighbors, right? So this is your placement. You have to use intelligent pricing strategies because there's an argument there. If there's an argument there, then you do it, right? Low. What if, everybody is listed just right and they need to sell fast? Then you probably want to list it lower than, that just right price. And then the mid-range, now you can look at statistics. You can say, okay, median days on market is this. If you list it here, right, you can probably plan on being on the market for probably about this much time, right? So this is your price value analysis, CMA, along with your paperwork. You need to have this ready, and you need to be prepared to have the conversation of low, medium, and high, right? Will you take an overpriced listing? That's up to you, right? Not everybody is going to be willing to take an overpriced listing. Personally, I'll do it within reason, but I always prepare my sellers and I say, look, when we list a property, we're going to be looking at the activity, which means, over the first 2 weeks of listing this property, I'm going to be watching and seeing how many people are showing interest in this property, how many showings did we get, how many people are actually calling me, about this property. If I get no interest in this property, they were way overpriced, and I'm going to be asking you to reduce the price. right? If we're showing it, 1, 2, 3, 4 times within the last, within a week, we might be doing okay, right? Yeah, and then if I don't know, maybe every once in a while, maybe you get it wrong, and maybe you thought you priced it at the mid or high end, and it ended up being low, right? Yeah, Anna just experienced where somebody priced well below. She actually, we had a conversation about this. They were over $100,000 below market value, and some agents have that strategy to drum up competition. To me personally, pricing it that low, you're kind of playing with fire. If I'm going to list below market value, unless the market is plummeting like 07, 08, I would want to still be near that, near what I believe even the low end of the value range would be, so that if we get multiple offers, we can get up above the low end of the value range. Because I've never gone to a listing appointment where the seller said, I don't care how much my house sells for, just sell it. Money is not a concern in this sale, right? Every listing appointment that I've been at, money is, it is money. It's money. Can you make them a little bit more money, right? Which, that's a different topic. We've done a training already on preparing a home to sell, the things that you look at in order to get the home prepared to sell for top dollar, right? And when you're walking through, those are the conversations that you're going to have, right? All right. So another thing you need to bring. So you brought the paperwork, you've got your CMA, price value analysis, but now you need a listing presentation. So we have two types, I should say, two types of listing presentation. You've got the physical, old school, print it out and bring it with you type of presentation, and you want to flip through it, you want to do whatever. And we have a digital, interactive, email it to them, put it on your iPad presentation. I do both. A lot of times I don't go through the physical in-person one, but I keep it with me. I don't leave it behind. I bring it with, I take it home with me when I leave, whether they list with me or not, I don't care. There's just no reason really to leave it behind, because I don't think people are going to sit up at night and actually go through this thing and read it. If they want it, maybe I'll email them a copy, right? But the physical one can be your evidence, right? It can be where you put it in writing that, hey, here's this, here's that, whatever it is. Here's the marketing plan, here it is in writing, right? But the digital one, I always create that and send it ahead of time. The one that we have, so for example, yeah, Anna, you went to create one in Bold Trail and it only came up with one comp. I don't pull my comps. I don't pull the comparable sales on Bold Trail. I actually get all of my information from the MLS, and then I enter them in Bold Trail manually. For searching properties, I believe the MLS is actually superior for searching properties, because it has more areas where you can define exactly what you're looking for. So no matter where I go, I used to use RPR. Right? RPR is also another very good tool that you can use, where you can print out, value reports and things like that, right? But what I do now, I'll pull the comps in the MLS, put them into Bold Trail, and then this way it's totally interactive. So you put in the MLS number, and then it'll sort them by active, closed, or whatever else there is, and then when you email, and I usually email it at least the day before, and I tell them, I say, hey, I just sent you a quick report. Go ahead and take a look, but this includes the properties that I found that I believe are comparable to yours, and I think that number one, this is going to help us determine the value, but number two, it's going to help us to place the property correctly on the market, so that we don't come off as way out of range when we price the property. The reason I want to send this ahead of time is because by having them look at this before I arrive, it saves me a lot of time. I'm a talker. And I'm the type of person, my personality is, when I'm speaking with somebody, I want to give them as much time as they need to understand everything that I'm saying. So I won't rush through things. I don't want you to feel, and I definitely don't want, if I'm on a listing presentation, I don't want them to feel like I'm rushing them and I don't have time, or that there's something immediately after this that is actually more important than this person right there. When I'm on a listing presentation, I really want them to feel like they are the most important person in the world to me. Generally speaking, I don't answer the phone when I'm in an appointment. When I don't work with a lot of buyers, or I haven't worked with a lot of buyers, but even when I did work with buyers, I wouldn't answer the phone when I was with a buyer. That time that I was with that customer, I don't answer the phone. Now, if my wife calls, or one of my children calls, or if I'm getting blown up like over and over and over and over and over, and somebody's calling me like crazy, I will probably answer the phone. But for the most part, I won't answer the phone during an appointment with the customer. But I do want them to have this information up front. It also has information on listing price, listing price range. It's got some charts, and then it closes them, right? It actually gives them a button at the end that says, I have more questions, or I'm ready to list. And believe it or not, I've had people click, I'm ready to list. So you already know walking into that appointment that they're going to list with you, right? Which is a really good feeling, and it's a really big confidence booster. All right, so what are we doing on the day of the appointment, right? So you've got everything ready. You've got all your paperwork. You've got your CMA. You know the neighborhood like the back of your hand, right? You know everything that's sold. You know what it looks like. Usually by the time I go into the appointment, I know which are my strongest comparable sales, and I can recite them. And I can say, 123 Main Street, I saw that one sold. It wasn't quite as nice as yours, but it sold for $245 per square foot. So not sure we should really be using that one, but 345, Main Street, that one actually has the same bathroom, same kitchen, same floor plan, same layout as yours. As we had discussed, these certain repairs, if we were to take care of these things and kind of get your place, spiffed up a little bit, I think that's going to bring you, to the higher echelon of, price per square foot. Now you're talking or speaking in a way that makes you sound like you know what you're talking about, but you should know what you're talking about. It shouldn't just sound like it. You are speaking and letting them know that, yeah, I know what's going on in your neighborhood. Because the whole time you need to be instilling confidence in that customer that you do know what you're talking about and that you can get the property sold. If they are not confident that you can sell the property, unless it's your grandma, you're probably not getting the business, right? So day of the appointment, what do we do? Also in Bullet Trail, so I use this feature for pretty much all of my appointments now, whether they're, listing appointments or even for, agent recruiting appointments, we'll use this feature. We set the appointment in Bullet Trail. It really is kind of that, to me, it's one extra small detail that makes you look just a little bit more professional. It shows that you have an appointment management system, and it's very simple. You put the appointment in there. You're already in their profile in the CRM. So you just enter the appointment. It's going to send them a text message and an email if you want it to, just saying, you have an appointment this day, this time. They can add it to their calendar from there, and then it's going to remind them of the appointment the day of. It's also going to give them a way to cancel or reschedule if they need to cancel or reschedule. But it's a small detail that I think a lot of other real estate agents probably don't have, right? So day of the appointment, what are you bringing? We already talked about a lot of this, right? But if you're bringing paper contracts, number one, don't forget to bring pens. Blue, probably. If somebody's signing closing documents, they're going to sign blue, so I've just always used blue. Few extra things maybe that you want to bring. You want to bring a tape measure in case you got to do some measuring. Some swag. I usually keep some booties in my car just in case. If I've got shoes that are difficult to take off, I'll just put booties on. If my shoes just slide on and off, then I'll just take my shoes off. But I always ask when I get there, would you like me to take my shoes off? And then, and I look, what is is the customer wearing shoes or not? If they're not wearing shoes, if they're walking around barefoot and they say, no, 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 don't worry about it, keep your shoes on, I take my shoes off anyway. I'm always prepared to take my shoes off. Number one, at my house, we don't wear shoes, right? Like you step in the door and you look to the right, and there's a little shoe cubby right there. We don't wear shoes in the house. We just, I don't know, I just don't like it, right? And, do you want people walking through your bedroom, where you're oftentimes are probably barefoot because you just got out of the shower? Do you want them walking around after, they were in their shoes? Who knows what they stepped in? I wouldn't. Right now, on the other hand, if the customer's wearing their shoes and they say, don't worry about it, I'll probably keep my shoes on because the floors might be dirty and I don't want to get my socks dirty. So, just use your judgment on that. But a lot of times, you'll figure out, and you're just looking for cues. We're just looking for cues, right? If they're not wearing shoes, though, I wouldn't. Even if they say leave your shoes on, I probably would go ahead and take my shoes off. It's the small things. It's the small things. That's something where they're going to pick up on that, and it's going to be one more small thing, and they're going to say, okay, this person cares about my home, right? If I see trash in the front yard as I'm walking up, I will grab the trash and I will say, hey, I got this in the yard. I'm going to go over here real quick and throw it away. I'll make sure they know that I picked up their trash in their front yard and I threw it away for them, right? It's those small details, right? It's the small things once you get to the door and once you're inside, right? Day of, maybe even the day before the appointment, but I've been on plenty of, Southeast Florida is a large area. I've lived here, let's see, over 13 years now, 13 and a half years, going on 14 years. And there's no way that I could say that I've driven every road, every street, every neighborhood, every block, whatever in the Tri-County area. So there's times where I would get an appointment and I wouldn't be familiar with that neighborhood. Now, while I'm talking to them, I got Google Maps up and I'm looking at it, right? And I might even be walking the street in Google Maps. But if I don't know the neighborhood, then before I'm going to arrive early and I'm going to drive the neighborhood. I drive old cars, by the way. That's why there's an old car, I think. Irene made this presentation, but I think she put the old car because she knows I drive old cars. I love old cars. But if I don't know the neighborhood, I'm going to drive around. I want to know where the schools are. I want to know where shopping is. I want to know where, any like parks, any attractions that are in the neighborhood. And then what I'm going to do when I'm on the appointment, I'm going to mention them. Oh yeah, well, this is going to be a great location because the school is literally just right down the road, right? Or, this is going to be, I don't know, whatever. I don't know. But, I will get to know the neighborhood. The other thing I'll do is I will drive by my comparable sales if they're in the neighborhood. I want to go by them. I want to see them, right? I want to see them with my own eyes. I'm probably not going to have time to schedule an appointment to go look at them. I've been to trainings before where they say to go look at all the listings in the neighborhood. I don't think I have time to do that. If you have time to do that, great. You're definitely, going to be an expert on things, but I won't have time, but I'll at least drive by them. And if I've got a list of homes that are for sale in the neighborhood, I'm going to drive by them. I want to see the curb appeal. You really want to know what you're up against, right? And then you also want to know, did I just send them a property that really isn't actually in this neighborhood? You need to know what you sent them. You sent it to them, and now your reputation's on the line. If they say, oh, if they're going to say, oh, no, that's not even in this neighborhood. Or that's, maybe you're in a development and there's 4 subdivisions inside that development, and you didn't know that when you sent everything, right? But you can walk in and say, look, I'm actually aware that I sent you stuff, in these other developments. I just kind of wanted to send it over. Not really going to be comparable, but you better turn on a dime on that one, right? This development has, or this subdivision, every home has a garage. This subdivision, none of the homes have a garage. This subdivision, they're all 2 stories. This subdivision, they're all 1 stories. Right? You need to know that, and you need to be able to shift gears really quick and cover yourself, because when you sent that stuff over, you didn't know it. Right? So, oh yeah, I sent you that, but I really just wanted you to look at it. I'm just assuming that not all home buyers have been, or not all agents have been in this neighborhood. So they may kind of clump these together. This one's not really going to be a good comparable for your house, but I just wanted to send that over because somebody still might look at it. But for price value purposes, we're not going to use that one. Does that make sense? Right? Think fast. Think fast, because if you start talking about these and they're like, no, this one's totally different. They're experts in their neighborhood. They're experts. I guarantee you. These people are experts in their neighborhood. So if you come in and you don't look like an expert, right, then I don't know, you figure out how to make it up. You got to make it up, right? So you've driven the neighborhood, you've driven by the comparable sales, you figured it out, you've got your, expert tip real quick. I have a pump-up song. Actually, I have a few pump-up songs. I don't know if that's what they're called, the hype songs. Like music is for the soul, man, right? Like music will change your mood. Like sometimes I would be on my way to an appointment and I'd be talking to my wife, and I'd get about 10 or 15 minutes from there, and I'd say, babe, I got to go. I've got to get my head in the right space, right? So she understands. She's okay, love you, bye, good luck. And then I put on my songs, right? I put on the songs that they boost your confidence, they boost your mood, right? They might get your blood pumping a little bit, right? I'm doing some breathing exercises, some big deep breaths, oxygenate the blood, right? I'm visualizing the appointment already. I'm thinking about what I'm going to say and when I'm going to say it, right? But I'm getting myself into that headspace. You need to be in the headspace. That is not the time to be on the phone with your ex-husband or your ex-wife or your boyfriend or girlfriend and get into a fight. Not the time to get on the phone and start arguing with your kids. It is not the time, right? This is the time you got, to me, it's 10 to 15 minutes before I'm there and the music is loud. I get to the neighborhood, turn it down, right? You don't want to be that person driving through the neighborhood with the loud music, and, depending on what your music is, it may not fit the profile. But get yourself in the right mind space. This is really, really important. And then, have a technique. If you find yourself or you catch yourself getting, thrown off your game a little bit, there should be something, you should have some sort of anchor that can pull you back and get you back into your headspace, right? You can't be shaken. You can't be shaken, right? So that's just, I don't know, little tip. We probably should have had a slide for that, but I literally do that. I literally do that. And to me, it makes all the difference. Like, it makes a huge difference. I walk up and I'm confident, right? That music is still running in my head, and I have my songs and I listen to the same ones, right? And it works for me, right? Probably don't want to be listening to like Adele as you're driving up, right? Because then you're going to be depressed. So, all right. So you pulled up now, you're in the driveway, you're at the appointment. What do you do? Well, what do I do? If there's a doorbell, I ring the doorbell, but I also knock on the door, because the doorbell doesn't always work. And I don't want to be standing there trying to figure out, did the doorbell work? Should I ring it again, or should I not? So I just do them both at the same time. Ding dong, knock, 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 right? And knock loud enough that that they can hear you, but not so loud that they think that it's the police, right? And if I hear the dog inside, woo, 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 right? Okay, cool. Then I know that they're, even if they didn't hear it, I know that they're going to know that I'm there because the dog is barking. As soon as you ring the doorbell or knock, take a step back. You don't need to be right there, in their face when they answer the door. Just take a step back, right? Give them a little bit of space. Maybe even when I was a landlord, well, I still am a landlord, but I don't serve 3-day notices and that anymore. But I learned take a step out. Don't stand in front of the door just in case bullets come through there. But I don't think you're going to have that problem as a real estate agent. But maybe just to be safe, take a step to the side. I don't know. Depends on where you're at, right? Maybe not. Who knows? So step back when they answer the door. Introduce yourself right away. Make sure you know the names. You don't want to know just the husband's name, because what if the wife answers, right? Hey, I'm Joe. I'm here to meet Steven. Who are you? Right? Instead of, hey, you must be Allison, right? Right? Now you know the name, right? So, and then the pleasantries. Hey, how are you? Whatever. Hopefully they invite you in. Hopefully, if you're a vampire, they need to invite you in. Rules for a vampire: you cannot invite yourself in. They have to invite you in. So if you're selling your house and you suspect somebody's a vampire, don't invite them in. Another pro tip. All right. So you are now in the property. Everything's going great. Husband and wife both expecting you. They're both happy to see you. Maybe you mailed them something previously. It's sitting on the table. This is amazing. Heck yeah, like on top of the world, right? So what do you do first, right? So you walk in, and sometimes they think you want to just go sit right down. All right, you want to have a seat right over here? No. I want to walk the property first. Right? Do you mind? Okay, yeah, sure. I can put my stuff over here, no problem. But do you mind if we do a quick tour of the property before we sit down and actually, talk about, listing your home? They're always going to say yes. I've never had anybody say, no, I want to talk to you first. I don't know. Maybe it'll happen. Who knows? You do enough things, enough times, you'll probably run into everything. But I haven't had it yet. But it's really, there's multiple purposes to walking around the home before sitting down with them. Number one, you're solidifying that relationship with them, right? You've probably been, lead generating and lead following up with them for quite a while, right? You've been in that follow-up stage. You've made a few more than just a couple of phone calls to them. So you've got a phone rapport, and maybe they told you a little bit about the house. Oh yeah, this is that smart refrigerator you were telling me about that plays ads that you can't turn off. Yeah, this is crazy. Wow, look at that. There's an ad, right? So you're continuing to solidify that with them. Oh yeah, you're right. These ads are really annoying. Holy cow! Can we what do we do about this, right? Number two, you're walking around the house, and I got this feedback one time, and I changed the way that I act ever since. Because I can just look at things, I'm like, okay, good, boom. My personality, I'm just like, let's get to the point. You can't tell in this training because I sound very long-winded. But my personality, I want to get to the point. I want to get it done and get it over with. But that's not everybody's personality. I sat down one time after walking through a property, and they said, I didn't really feel like you really saw much of our house. I didn't really feel like you were, really too concerned about, some of the features. And I was like, oh, crap. Okay. Well, I did see it. It's a small house. I don't know what you wanted me to see, but when I'm walking through, I'm just looking for certain things. So now when I go on appointments, I'm commenting, and I'm always looking up at the ceiling, and I'm looking around, and it's kind of a dog and pony show because, once you've seen the ceiling, you've seen it, right? But you kind of want them to see you looking at everything, right? And then, oh, wow, it's a really nice ceiling fan, right? Or, whatever. But you're also walking through, and go back and watch the training that we did on preparing a house to sell. Because this is the opportunity to have that conversation with them, right? Is there a budget for us to do, to take care of some of these items? Is it, the other thing you're going to want to do is if you can recommend professionals to do these things, I like them to use my people. If you've ever worked with me, most of my customers use my people because my people know, number one, what to do, but number two, they're going to keep me in the game, right? They're giving me updates. They're sending me pictures. They're letting me know everything that's going on, right? So, and as you're making recommendations, what are you doing? You're showing them that you really are a professional, right? If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I came in, I gave you a plan, right? I told you the things that you should do to your property to sell it for top dollar. My number one goal in selling a house is just make it clean and look well maintained. If you can give the appearance of clean and well maintained, then you're going to sell your property relatively quick. I'm not asking you to remodel kitchens and bathrooms and, you know, put impact windows in, replace the roof, replace the AC. All of those things are important, but if we can limp them along, then we're going to limp them along, right? Who knows? The buyer may not care about the roof. The buyer might be a roofer, right? So you spent $50,000 on the roof to get, what, $35,000 in value. Doesn't make any sense. We're looking at cosmetics. Clean and well maintained is the goal. Now, if they want to say, if they say, well, we've lived here a whole life, it's all original, and we'd like to just upgrade it and, you know, basically flip our own house, cool, we can do that too. But that's the exception. That's not the rule. Most people don't want to put a huge investment, right? And it's, you know, it's the cliche sayings, curb appeal, kitchens and bathrooms sell a house, right? We're, you know, lipstick on a pig. Right? All of these things, they mean something, and they're cliche for a reason because they're true, right? So these are the things that we're going to talk about. You probably don't want to use the term lipstick on a pig as you're walking through somebody's house, right? But it's going through your head. We're not giving this thing major surgery. We're just putting lipstick on a pig, right? So, and what does that look like? Maybe some paint on the ugly, scuffed up walls, right? Is the carpet like brown and dirty and gross and like beyond hope? Then you may need to do something with that, right? What's the smell of the house? Put some perfume on the pig, right? So you've walked through, you've made these recommendations. Maybe you have a notepad, you've taken some notes, right? You've done all these things. Oh, another pro tip, and this is in the preparing the house to sell. If the house has a smell, it's very important that you get rid of that smell. Any smell that a home has, you need to figure out how to address it, and you need to figure out. And sometimes what you might say is, you know, when you're setting the appointment, let them know that, yeah, I want to see your house and I also want to smell it. And they're going to be like, what? What do you mean smell it? Smell is really important. The smell of a house, man, you might be in the most beautiful house, but if it smells like there's rotting corpses inside the walls, you're going to have a lot of problems selling that place. The Febreze plugins, Febreze, work really well. They work really well, right? Probably, you know, let them know don't have a fish fry. You know, probably avoid some strong smelling spices like curry. Make sure your dog is washed, right? These kind of things can go a long way. Probably shouldn't be smoking in your house. You know, it just kind of, you know, some things that, you know, for some of us, we just naturally know it, but you can't, what do they say? The definition of assume is, you know, makes an ass out of you and me, right? That's what it means. So yeah, litter boxes, keep those clean, right? Keep the litter boxes clean, very, very clean, right? Remember, the house must look and smell clean and well maintained. I'm not a big proponent of chemicals. You know, I don't necessarily like candles or, you know, I mean, the scent, the plug-in things, it has to have Febreze. Anna likes Downy. I like Gain. Actually, I like Febreze with the Gain scent. You know, those commercials are probably how I actually act when I smell Gain because it smells really good. You know, the candle, the wax things that melts the wax, like, I don't know, you don't want to overpower the house, right? And because some people will walk in and it won't smell bad, but it'll smell very strong of, you know, perfume and scent and things like that. And that's going to give them a headache, and then that's going to turn them off as well, right? I've seen, or, you know, you can put some orange peels in the garbage disposal, bake cookies, you know, tell them bake some cookies before we come by. crank the AC if it's the middle of July at 4 o'clock, because that oven's going to make the house hot. So make sure it's also comfortable. All of these things are in the other training that we did on how to prepare a house to sell. All right, so we walked the property, right? We walked through. We've given them we've given them the keys to the kingdom, man. Right? Like, I've given you my entire plan by now. So you better freaking list with me, because if you don't, I know what's going to happen. You're going to take everything I told you, you're going to do it, and you're going to go do it with somebody else. Right? So I hope you see by now that I am an expert and that I do care, and I have a plan to help you sell your house for more money, right? By spending with a very minimal budget, right? If it's going to cost $10,000 to do everything, they've only got $5,000, then you got to figure out, you better get into the ER and do some triage, right? Where's the biggest bleeder? Get rid of the biggest bleeder first, right? Or maybe you've got such a great relationship. I've got great relationships with my vendors because I've worked with them for a long time. We actually have a form in the office. We can help you with it if you need it, where our vendors will give credit to the sellers. We actually have 2 customers right now that we're doing a credit for, and then give so much now, and then they'll get the balance at closing, and that attaches with the contract. We have vendors that are also willing to do that, right? So but now you're the expert. You have the plan. It's your listing to lose at this point, so don't mess up, right? Get your presentation. Number 1, read the room, right? Don't try. We can go back one slide here. If you're, we did another training on personalities and characteristics. Very important to know what personality and what characteristic you're sitting across from. If you're talking to a CEO of a company and you're treating them like they're an accountant, you're gonna see they're gonna go freaking crazy, man. They're gonna be in their head cussing you out, swearing you out. Maybe they'll be polite and smile at you, but you're gonna start seeing them start falling asleep, right? If you've got somebody that's friendly and personable and wants to have a conversation with you, but you're giving short answers, right? They're gonna feel like you don't like them. Match their personality, right? How do they present to them how they want to be presented, right? If there's an objection or they don't agree with what you say, if they have a different opinion, that's okay. Hear them out, right? Even repeat back to them, right? Okay, so what I'm hearing is this, right? But do not argue with them. If you start an argument with them, it's over, right? They're not going to like you, right? And yeah, hit the objections before it's an objection. Think about, okay, when I go to this appointment, what's everything that they can possibly say to me? How do I get in front of everything so that when I close them to sign at the end, that they're just going to sign it? There's nothing that they can say, right? There's literally nothing that they can say, right? And the last thing I talk about, or maybe I just sprinkle it in, who you are and what you've done, right? That's the last thing that's the last stuff that I'm talking about. I may just tell them, that, whatever the most impressive detail about me is, right? There's certain things that I'll tell people, but I don't sit there and spend a lot of time on me because it's not about me, right? And I'm certainly, and let's not get it twisted here, we are not the only real estate agent that can come in and sell their house, right? So figure out, what are some of these things that set you apart from other real estate agents? And if you're a brand new agent and you don't have a reputation, then what else can you brag about? You should be able to brag about your company. You should be able to brag about, the support. If you're brand new and you have a mentor, your mentor should be there with you, right? There should be something that you could brag about. We did a training on how to treat your real estate business like a business. And as part of that training was set up your Google My Business page and start getting 5-star reviews for yourself. On Google My Business, it doesn't need to be a past client or a vendor that you've worked with. It can be anybody. Your grandma can write you a 5-star review. Your cousin, your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your children. your coworkers, your hairstylist, literally anybody. Hey, will you do me a favor and take just a moment to write me a 5-star review? If you don't want to write anything, just give me 5 stars. And that's it, right? You can say, hey, I'm a 5-star rated agent. I've got 36 reviews, all with 5 stars, right? That's credibility. Everybody's happy, right? It's not, it's how you say things. It's how you say things, right? So, you could talk about, maybe you're not the neighborhood expert, right? That maybe should be a question. Are you the neighborhood expert? People ask, what have you sold in the neighborhood? I literally, the one that we just sold, that we listed over, the one that we just sold that we listed over what we thought the value should be because of what all of the actives were overpriced. I called him one day and I asked him, and I was just following up with them. There we go. Are you the neighborhood expert? And I was following up with him, and he told me, he goes, I got to be honest with you, Joe. I'm probably not going to list with you. There's actually an agent in this neighborhood. She has a lot of experience selling in this neighborhood. And I was like, oh, crap. What do I say? Okay, Mr. Now I've got to throw everything at him. I'm literally throwing everything at him at this point. Look, I get it. You want to sell with the neighborhood expert. I'm not the neighborhood expert. I've actually never sold in your neighborhood. Lying isn't going to get me anywhere because I can't prove it, right? Lying will never get you anywhere. But what I specialize in is selling homes. I already met you. We already walked through. I showed you the plan. Do you have any reason to believe that what I showed you and what I told you will not work in selling your house for the most amount of money, right? And then I went on about my history. Now I've got a pretty good sales history. Again, I've got over 600 closed transactions, in my history. I've had a team of over six agents on my team plus admins, right? I was flipping houses back since 2003. I've been in rentals since 2010, right? I'm the broker of this company, right? We're 30 some odd agents in this brokerage, right? So I just start throwing all of this at him and I saved it. You don't need to be the neighborhood expert, right? But these are the things that you can talk about, right? Additionally, you could talk about your vendor partners. Again, we're bringing people in that are going to help solve and fill the needs that they have. So don't forget about your vendor partners, the people that can work with you. I've recommended everybody that you need to get it done. And they did. And we're under contract and we're closing, I don't know, probably in about 2 or 3 weeks. So then, do they care? Maybe you want to talk about your marketing strategy, whether you talk about it or not. This is the one that I spend the least amount of time on. I rarely ever spend much time on my marketing strategy because I don't believe that there is really any silver bullet in marketing, any one thing that an agent can do that any other agent can do. And I tell people that, look, there's no right, but we're going to get your price right. We're going to get the presentation right. And we're going to get the placement right. Right? Price and placement go together. Presentation is what we're talking about when people are looking at it. We're going to get professional photos, right? Everything that has to do with what people are seeing, right? So you're looking at the property, you're going to get it ready, you list it, right? And then you're communicating with the owner, right? And then you're going to negotiate, right? We also share with them the selling process. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but the seller should have some idea of what to expect. Now, the number one thing in your presentation, if you're not going to do it, if you don't do it, don't say that you're going to do it. Postcards are a big thing. I've more than once in my career, I've heard of agents that say that they're going to mail postcards to the neighbors or they're going to mail it to their sphere, and they never mail a postcard. And I've heard a couple of times that they've gotten caught not mailing. Prove it. So if you're not going to mail a postcard, then don't do it. Right? Again, everything here Pretty much any other agent can do it. Is there something that you do? Is there something that you do that maybe another agent doesn't do? Right? Or is there something that maybe less agents do? Matterport 3D walkthrough videos. To me, personally, I think they're kind of useless, but for sellers, they're impressive. We've done those. Maybe that's the thing that puts you over the edge. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Read the room. As you're going along, am I going to get this listing or not? Do I need to keep going? You know, do I have an ace in the hole somewhere? This is just about pricing. We've already talked about pricing. This is actually in the presentation that we sent already ahead of time, because I want, and there's actually other charts that show them about pricing right that they look at, so that I can get them to actually price the property to sell, because so you don't want to go on a listing presentation and not take the listing, but the only thing that's a bigger waste of time than going on a presentation that you didn't get the listing is taking the listing that never ends up selling. That sucks. And sometimes the best deal you do is the one that you don't do. Sometimes I tell them, look, I'm actually not going to be the right agent for you. I don't believe that this is a plan that I can sell your house with. I don't think that, you know, it's going to work, because I've done this long enough. I've had properties that expire. You know, it's not good use of your time. If the seller's not a good fit, if it's not the personality, your decision. Do whatever you want. I don't care. Again, this is my opinion. These are my work practices. You don't have to emulate how I do things. You can change it around and do things your own way. We're all independent contractors, right? Nobody tells us what to do, how to do, what to dress, when to be here, when to be there. Nobody tells you anything. That's why you took the career that you have. But you have to decide, am I going to take an overpriced listing? Am I going to take 12 overpriced listings? They're just going to yell at you. So part of your job is to get them to price it right. What's the order? All right, you got them to sign. They priced it intelligently. We've got the price. When I start going through paperwork, I have an order that I go through. First thing I do is I give them disclosure. Actually, while I'm talking to them, they've already got the disclosures in front of them. Do you mind filling this out while we speak? That way we can get this done. You know, it's kind of long. Then I'll ask them, and I'll go through and I'll start filling in the checklist. How old's your roof? How old's your water heater? How old's your AC? What's your association fee? I wrote down here that your taxes are $4,163 per month. Does that sound, or per year? Does that sound right? Do you have a mortgage? How much do you owe on it? Who's your lender? Whatever questions I need to ask, right? Whatever that question is, I'm asking them. Because now, in the disclosure, I'm getting them to start signing and writing and filling things out. And then in the checklist, I'm getting information on listing their house, and they're answering me on that. All right, last thing we got to do is just finalize the paperwork. We agreed at this price. Here's my terms, right? Here's the term of our contract. I don't charge a cancellation fee. You can charge one if you want. I don't care. Again, it's up to you. But for me, I tell them, I say, look, I want to be held accountable here. I told you a lot of things in this appointment. They're all true, but I want you to be confident that they're true. And the only way that I can do that is allow you to get out of this contract at any time that you want to get out of it. Now, I ask for, you know, this much time as a commitment. Usually I want 6 months. I ask for a 6-month commitment. But if at any point in those 6 months, I don't do what I say I was going to do, or you find that I misrepresented, or, you know, or am just not serving you the way that I should serve you, there's no cancellation fee. I do want to be reimbursed for my marketing, and that's in there, that they will reimburse you for your marketing, but I don't want a cancellation fee. And I tell them that. And I've actually never had anyone cancel, right? If they don't sign it right away, what's the objection? Handle it. Handle the objection. We're not ready because of this. We've got 5 other agents that we need to interview. We're going to list it with somebody else. Whatever it is, figure it out. Handle it. Close it again. Close it again. Just think about that, right? And then if you don't get it, they shoo you out the door. Don't act like, you know, until you see it on the MLS, until you see it listed on the multiple listing, you might still get that listing. Follow up, keep in touch. Don't drop off the face of the earth and disappear. Keep in touch. And believe me, like you may come back and get that listing still. And if they list it, follow it. Get updates on it. When it cancels or expires, call them again. Hey, I saw that this just canceled. Is everything okay? Seemed like we hit it off pretty well. You know, is it maybe worth your time for us to sit down and meet again? Love the opportunity to show you what I can do. You know, unfortunately, this one didn't work out, but I don't think that has to be your destiny. You didn't get the listing. Figure out what went well and what didn't go well. Where can you do better? You got the listing. Where can you do better? No matter what, you should always stop and ask yourself, you know, what could I have done better in that appointment? What could I have done better on that call? You know, what could I do differently that would get me a different outcome? For example, when I was walking around and they didn't think I was looking at their house, I saw everything I needed to see. I don't know what they wanted me to look at, but now I do. You know, I walk around looking stupid now. Okay. You know, so figure out what didn't go well. Don't let it happen again. You know, you can make, I tell my kids, you make any mistake once, it's fine. As long as it's not a life-altering mistake, you're going to be just fine. But you can't make the same mistake twice, right? Can't make the same mistake twice. So call to action. What's call to action? Number one call to action is get out of the lead generate, lead follow-up cycle. Start getting on appointments. You got to get on appointments. We have the A, B, C, D, E, F of a phone call. If you know, no matter what, you need to figure out how to make an effective real estate phone call. If you can't effectively be on the phone, whether you're cold calling, warm calling, whatever it is, whether it's a referral, whether it's a past client, if you are not prepared for that call, then you're probably never going to get the appointment. So improve your phone skills so that we can get to the appointments. Number two, there's the A through F's right there on every call, every interaction, as a matter of fact, right? There's no reason why you wouldn't do this at an open house. There's no reason why you wouldn't do this on really any interaction with anybody. You should do these. These are the 6 steps that we would consider it a successful contact. You closed, you connected, you got some good information, you closed again, verified email, didn't get the appointment on either of those 2 closes, so you got permission to follow up. That's it, right? Number 2, confidence. Fake it till you make it. I was on a call this morning with somebody, and I told this person, I said, find an avatar. Who's somebody that you look up to, that you respect? Who's somebody that has a style or a swag that, you know, emulates confidence, emits confidence? It wasn't you, Anna. I swear it wasn't you. But it's somebody that you know, it just gives you a high level, that shows a high level of confidence, or you could say, yeah, you know what, I want to sell like that person. Or maybe it's a superhero. I don't know. It doesn't matter who it is, right? But have that confidence. Know your objection handlers and know them well. Always close. Never have a customer interaction where you don't close, right? Always ask for the appointment. And if you can't get the appointment, always ask to follow up, right? And then if you did your job and you built a connection and you got a key piece of information, then your follow-up is going to be that much more effective. So this is our job. This is what we do. And, you know, all of these little details, there's always going to be some little details that you can add into an interaction or a presentation that's going to make it a little bit better. This is not the holy grail of listing appointments and how you should do it or how it needs to be done. Put your own twist on it. Take what you like and leave the rest behind. As many people as you know, are on this call right now or have been on this call since we started, there's probably that many different opinions on how a listing presentation should be done. This is just the way that I do it. It's not necessarily how it needs to be done. If you can walk in and just get a sign and it takes you 10 minutes and you walk out with that listing and you're good, then that's great, right? Then don't change it, right? Don't change it to a listing presentation that's going to have you sitting in somebody's living room for 2, 3, 4 hours, you know, where you're starving to death, you know, for lack of food by the end of it. So that's it. Real quick, I know we're over on time. Anybody have any questions or comments on anything that we talked about here? Very cool. You guys are awesome. Thank you all so much for showing up. I really hope this helped. You know, again, if you have an appointment and we can do anything to assist you, we really want to be there for you. You know, our number one thing is, you know, we meet you where you're at, and so that you don't stay stuck. Hop in with us. Let us know what we can do. I'd love to see more people using Present because I think it's an amazing tool for listing appointments. So if we can help you with anything, let us know. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We appreciate you. Have a good one.